What if Rip Wheeler has already figured out something that nobody else has? What if the biggest threat in Dutton Ranch isn't the disease, the missing cattle, or even the financial problems? What if the real danger is the Jackson family themselves? By the end of episode 5, one small conversation completely changed the way I look at this story. It wasn't a shootout. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It wasn't even one of Beth's ruthless business moves. It was a warning, a simple warning. Rip telling Beth to be careful around the Jackson family. And when Rip Wheeler tells someone to be careful, it's never just a casual observation. Rip isn't the kind of man who scares easily. He spent most of his life dealing with criminals, ranch wars, corrupt businessmen, and people willing to kill to get what they want. He survived situations that would break most people. So when someone like Rip starts feeling uneasy, it's worth paying attention. Because I don't think Rip is just suspicious anymore. I think he's beginning to realize that the Jackson family is hiding something far darker than anyone expected. Let's start with what we know. Throughout the season, the Jackson Ranch has been presented as a struggling operation trying to survive difficult times. On the surface, they look like another ranching family dealing with financial pressure, drought, shrinking profits, and changing times. But the deeper Rip gets involved with them, the more cracks begin to appear. And once you start looking closely, those cracks become impossible to ignore. The biggest clue is Wes. For several episodes now, the mystery surrounding Wes has continued to grow. He's not simply a ranch hand who packed up and left town. Too many people react strangely whenever his name comes up. Nobody gives a straight answer. Nobody seems eager to discuss him. And most importantly, people appear nervous whenever questions are asked. That's never a good sign. Then comes Rip's conversation with Austin. At first, it feels like normal ranch talk. Two men discussing a worker who disappeared. But Rip is different from most people. He's always watching, always listening, always paying attention to details others miss. The moment Austin starts talking about Wes, Rip realizes something doesn't add up. And that's when the pieces start falling into place. Earlier in the season, Rip discovered a body. A dead man. A mystery that never seemed fully explained. Now suddenly there's a missing ranch hand named Wes. And Rip starts connecting those dots. The realization doesn't happen all at once. But you can see it happening. The expression changes. The questions become more focused. The suspicion grows. Rip may not have proof yet, but his instincts are screaming that these events are connected. And Rip's instincts are usually right. Then comes a scene with Chet and Joaquin. Honestly, this might be one of the most important scenes in the entire episode. Chet is clearly nervous. He's worried. He knows something. And when he confronts Joaquin, he basically threatens to expose whatever happened to Wes. Now think about that. If Wes simply quit his job and left town, why would anyone need to threaten exposure? There would be nothing to expose. The fact that Chet uses that language tells us everything. Something happened to Wes. Something serious. And Joaquin's reaction is even more telling. He doesn't panic. He doesn't deny anything. He doesn't even pretend to be confused. Instead, he acts like a man who has already dealt with problems like this before. A man who believes he controls the situation. Then he delivers what may be the most chilling line of the episode. He tells Chet there are only 2 ways of leaving the ranch. That's not a joke. That's not friendly advice. That's a threat. A direct threat. And the implication is terrifying. Because if Wes learned something he wasn't supposed to know, then maybe he became one of those ways of leaving. Dead. Gone. Buried where nobody could find him. And suddenly Rip's warning to Beth makes much more sense. But here's where the theory gets even darker. What if Wes isn't the only victim? What if the Jackson family has been covering things up for years? Think about everything Beth discovers while researching Beulah. The ranch has survived one disaster after another. Financial collapse, drought, debt, economic hardship. Yet somehow they always survive. Now, there's nothing suspicious about surviving hard times. Good ranchers do that all the time. But what if survival came at a cost? What if some of the decisions made behind closed doors weren't exactly legal? Beth notices something interesting during her research. The Jackson family doesn't operate like most ranchers. They're aggressive, protective, secretive, and willing to do whatever it takes to keep control. Those characteristics can help build an empire. but they can also hide dangerous secrets. And Beulah herself is fascinating. I don't think she's a simple villain. In fact, I think that's exactly what makes her dangerous. She's smart, she's patient, and she's experienced. She has survived decades of hardship. People like that don't survive by being weak. They survive by making hard choices, sometimes ruthless choices. Beth sees that immediately. It's why she respects Beulah, even while distrusting her. Beth recognizes another survivor, another fighter, another person willing to protect what's theirs at any cost. The question is how far Beulah is willing to go, and more importantly, what she's willing to cover up. Now let's talk about Rip's position moving forward. This is where things become really dangerous. For the first time, Rip is on the inside. He's no longer observing the Jackson family from a distance. He's working alongside them, leading their men, managing operations, earning trust. And that's exactly why he's becoming a threat. The closer Rip gets, the more likely he is to uncover something. Secrets have a funny way of revealing themselves, especially around people who know how to look for them. Every day Rip spends on that ranch gives him access to new information, new conversations, new relationships, new opportunities to uncover the truth. The Jackson family may think they're gaining a valuable foreman, but they might actually be inviting an investigator into the center of their operation. And if Rip discovers evidence connecting them to Wes's disappearance, everything changes. Because Rip isn't the kind of man who looks the other way. Never has been. Never will be. That's what makes this storyline so compelling. Beth and Rip are moving in completely different directions. Beth sees opportunity. Rip sees danger. Beth wants a business partnership. Rip wants answers. Beth believes she can transform the ranch into a profitable brand worth millions. Rip believes somebody may be hiding a murder. Both stories are happening simultaneously, and eventually they're going to collide. Imagine this scenario. Beth successfully convinces Beulah to accept her business proposal. The ranch starts growing. Money starts flowing. The future begins looking bright. Then Rip uncovers evidence linking the family to Wes's death. Suddenly, everything Beth built is sitting on top of a criminal foundation. That would create one of the biggest conflicts we've seen all season, because Beth would have something valuable to lose, and Rip would have a truth he couldn't ignore. Another thing worth discussing is the atmosphere surrounding the Jackson Ranch itself. Have you noticed how tense everything feels there? The workers don't seem particularly loyal. The relationships feel strained. Arguments break out constantly. Nobody seems completely comfortable. It's almost like everyone is carrying around information they're afraid to say out loud. Fear has a way of creating that kind of environment. When people know secrets can get them killed, they stop talking. They stop asking questions. They focus on survival. And that's exactly the atmosphere Rip has walked into. It's a ranch built on uncertainty, built on tension, built on hidden truths. And Rip can feel it. That's why his warning to Beth matters so much. He's not warning her about business. He's not warning her about competition. He's warning her about people. Dangerous people. People capable of doing things most others wouldn't. The most interesting part of this theory is that Rip doesn't have all the answers yet. He's operating almost entirely on instinct. Small clues, odd conversations, strange reactions, missing pieces. But sometimes that's enough, especially for someone like Rip Wheeler, because he understands human nature. He knows what guilt looks like. He knows what fear looks like. And he definitely knows what secrets look like. Every conversation he has on that ranch pushes him closer to the truth. Every suspicious reaction adds another piece to the puzzle. And sooner or later, that puzzle is going to form a complete picture. When it does, I think we're going to discover that the Jackson family's problems run much deeper than money, much deeper than ranching, and much deeper than anybody currently realizes. The disease outbreak may have been sabotage. Wes may have uncovered something dangerous. The Jackson operation may be built on lies. Or maybe all three are connected. That's what makes this storyline so exciting. The writers aren't just giving us a mystery. They're giving us multiple mysteries that seem to be moving toward the same destination. And right in the middle of all of it stands Rip Wheeler, a man who has survived almost everything life can throw at him. A man who doesn't back down. A man who never stops digging once he starts asking questions. Which is exactly why I think the people responsible should be worried. Because Rip is already suspicious. He's already investigating. And he's already warning the people he loves to stay alert. That means the countdown has begun. Sooner or later, Rip is going to discover the truth about Wes. Sooner or later, he's going to learn who can be trusted and who can't. And sooner or later, somebody in the Jackson family is going to realize that Rip knows too much. When that happens, the real battle for Dutton Ranch will begin. And if history has taught us anything, it's this. When Rip Wheeler starts hunting for the truth, somebody always ends up paying the price. The only question is whether the Jackson family is ready for what comes next.